question you first ask is, what is Arduino? First of all, Arduino, by definition, is a programmable logic controller, which is an open source electronics prototyping platform. This here in my hand is actually an Arduino. This is the Arduino Uno, and what this basically is a little microcontroller that you as a user, when you're using, you will program it in order to use inputs to make outputs do different functions. It's basically a small computer that you can use to make different things happen based off of what you are programming the thing to do. It's like a little computer that you can program to do things, and it interacts with the world through electronic sensors, lights, and motors. There are different little components that you will be using with the Arduino to put into them in order to make it so that you can control those different components based off of programming that you're going to use. We're going to be using a little bit of coding. Some of the different types of coding that you will be used in order to actually manipulate the different components that you're going to be working with. Alright, so as we have seen, this is the Arduino Uno. It's going to have different components on it. This is a bigger version of what I have in my hand, but you're going to be able to program this thing in order to make other things work. Why do you want to use an Arduino? There's a cross-platform that can be used, and that cross-platform actually uses different computer programs and coding programs that you can use in order to program the Arduino to make its things kind of work. It's a very simple, very basic, but clear programming environment. Most of the coding that you're going to do with the Arduino is going to be more online. There's a website that we're going to show you eventually, where you will just simply go in and put in different coding in order to manipulate your Arduino. It's an open source of extensible software as well as extensible hardware. You can add different components to the Arduino simply by plugging in different power sources and wiring to go from this Arduino out to the component that you're trying to manipulate. Another good thing about the Arduino is this little microcontroller is very inexpensive. You can probably get a Arduino for less than $75 for this whole starter kit. I have a whole starter kit here that we will kind of go through some of the different components that go with the Arduino. Right, the connectivity for the Arduino is, as a piece of hardware, it can operate either independently like a robot, or you can connect it to a computer, thereby giving your computer access to sensor data from the outside world and providing feedback. So with the Arduino, you can actually be working with other people at the same time, using data coming into your computer into the Arduino, which actually helps you to send out data to the rest of the world in order for you to have your Arduino to connect with other computers and different components outside of where you physically are. Pretty much you can connect anything to this, any electrical components to this Arduino in order for you to be able to manipulate that component using this Arduino through your programming. All right, here's some sample things that you can do with your Arduino. Actually, you are programming this LED board in order for it to have words going across the screen. These words could be stable, these words can be running random through it. This is called the LED module screen. This actually simply connects to the Arduino through some of these wires that we have here. There are a lot of different wires that you can actually put to this Arduino. That's one of the things. You can make a robot. So as you see here, this is a picture of a robot, and the Arduino actually sits on top of the robot. This robot uses sensors, uses bump sensors, uses motors. You can put the motors plugged into the Arduino. This has a light sensor, which acts as the eyes for the robot. And when that light sensor is used, then it senses how far the robot is going. It senses the different lights, and it has a line follower using these lights on here. All right, so this is called a walking robot. A mobile controlled robot where you can actually use your cell phone in order to control the Arduino, which sits behind the cell phone, which is mounted onto a little breadboard that you have. Also, you can use it to check room temperature because the Arduino has some sensors that use temperature sensors that will tell you what the temperature in the room is, and then it will actually send it back to the sensor. Will go through the Arduino itself and send back the signal to your LED display, which is going to allow you to see what the temperature in the room would be. So you can have light sensors, temperature sensors. So we are going to do an in-class exercise where you guys are going to be able to program your Arduino to use a push button to turn on and off an LED. So an LED is literally just a little bitty light bulb that is colored, all right? In our packet, we have red, green, blue, and yellow lights in our LEDs. And we actually will attach those LEDs to the breadboard. This is the breadboard, and all of these components actually have little wire tabs at the end that will actually stick into the breadboard of different components. And that is how we will make our first program to work the way that it's going to work. Looking here, for our components that we do have, we have the breadboard, which is going to be our base for connecting our components. We're going to have a power source. All right, these red and black cable actually is for power and ground. This power source is actually going to be plugged into a 9-volt battery. The 9-volt battery will power up the Arduino and will cause our components to work properly. We're going to use a USB port cable. This USB cable is actually going to plug into our Arduino as it would into a printer, and then it's going to plug into our computer so that we can use our computer to actually manipulate our Arduino. On our board, we're going to have ground and power ports that are going to be located in the different sections. On our board, if you look at the board, it's going to have, if we go back to this screen, if we're looking here, we're going to have our ground and power boards. Our ground and power ports are going to be in here. We're going to have a power supply here that is going to actually be able to plug our Arduino into an electrical outlet instead of plugging it into a power source. Our USB jack, as I talked about, for our USB cord is going to be here on our board. You're also going to have the TX and RX LEDs. The TX and RX LEDs are going to be here. These are going to tell us if our programs that we are writing on our computers are actually downloaded onto our Arduino. It's also going to be a signal to let us know whether or not we are communicating with the Arduino, the computer, and the different components that we have. All right, the digital pins are going to be here. These digital pins are going to be what we're going to plug our different motors into. So you see here we have some motors. These motors will be plugged in through pins into our digital ports. We also have analog ports that we can plug our things into as well. And then the microcontroller. This is going to be our 18 mega microcontroller here. This microcontroller is what's going to help to send the signals from our Arduino board to our different components. So once we program these things in, then those signals will get sent to our digital outputs and inputs, and then that's what's going to help us to make it so that our components are actually going to work. Finally, for the program that we're going to be using, you're going to be building something to manipulate your own program. And in that program, as I said, we're going to be building a program where we're going to be able to turn these LEDs on and off by pressing this button here. And that is going to happen once we go to our Getting Started page here for our Arduino. At this page, we'll be able to download and install the Arduino environment, which is called the IDE. We'll connect our board to the computer by the USB cable. If we need to install drivers, that will be done at this site as well. We're going to launch the Arduino IDE program. going to select which board we're using because there are different boards that you can